The countdown continues. 9 days until a brand new college football season. Here's a look at the AP Top 10. Texas ranked #1 in the preseason for the first time in school history. Penn State is second. Reigning national champion Ohio State ranked third. Clemson and Georgia round out the top 5. No surprise, the SEC leads the way with 10 teams in the AP Top 25, but perhaps this is a surprise. That's the most ever by one conference. The Big Ten is second with 6 teams in the top 25. CBS Sports college football writer Tom Fornelli ranking the Power 4 conferences entering the season. No surprise, SEC ranked #1. The Big Ten has won the last 2 national championships, coming in second, followed by the Big 12 and the ACC. And welcome in the aforementioned CBS Sports college football writer and member of the Cover 3 podcast, Tom Fornelli. The ACC has 3 schools in the first AP poll: Clemson, Miami, and SMU. Clemson, SMU both made the college football playoff last season. Tom, does the ACC send at least 2 schools to the playoff this season?
Yeah, you know, I think there's a very high likelihood of that happening. I know I've predicted that they will have 2 teams, and it's pretty much the primary reason why I have them ranked 4th among the 4 Power 4 conferences, because when you look at this league from top to bottom, there are 3 or 4 teams that you look at and can say they can win, they can win the conference, they get to the playoff, and there's a couple that you can look at as national title contenders. It's after you get past them where the disparity really starts to, show in comparison to the other leagues. So because of that, I look at Clemson. I think that this is a team that I don't know if I consider the Tigers good enough to win a national title this season, but I know that in comparison to the rest of the ACC, they are just on a different level. So I think this is a team that could cruise to like an 11-1 record, win the ACC, get a first-round bye. I look at Miami. They have some very tough games on their schedule that'll be difficult for them to get through, but I also think talent-wise on their offensive and defensive line, they have an experienced quarterback in Carson Beck. They're going to be a very good shot of getting to the ACC championship game, and if they lose it, I still think they will be strong enough to earn an at-large berth. And then you see SMU and Louisville there, who are the other 2 teams that are in the picture. Nobody really thought SMU was going to end up in the ACC championship and get to the playoff this season. I don't know if they can repeat that feat, but I do think it's not entirely impossible that one of those teams could have a very good season and just get in as an at-large. So yeah, I do think the ACC gets 2 in. Whether they win a national title or not, much more skeptical.
There's a change in the playoff format this year. The 4 highest-ranked schools will be seeded 1 through 4, will receive a first-round bye. The remaining schools seeded 5 through 12 based on their final ranking. The Big 12 had 1 school in the playoff last year. That conference comes in 3rd in your power rankings. The Big 12 has 4 schools in the top 25 currently: Arizona State, Kansas State, Iowa State, and the new big spender, Texas Tech. Tom, the Big 12 is trying to catch up to the Big 10 and the SEC. Is the Big 12 underrated in your eyes?
I don't know if it's underrated as much as it's overlooked a little bit too easily. I do think that when you look at the conference, I mean, it depends on how you want to rate them. You mentioned that they have 4 teams, and most of them are ranked in the bottom tier or the bottom 10 of the top 25. And then you look at the first 3 teams outside that are others receiving votes, all Big 12 teams, because I feel like the AP voters get to that part of their ballot past the top 15 and start saying to themselves, all right, it's time to throw some Big 12 teams on there. Who should we go with? And there's so many different teams to choose from that you don't really see anybody earn enough points to climb high. But I think that at the top of this league, it's hard to find a team that you can look at and say, that's a team that could win 3 or 4 playoff games against an elite competition and win a national title. But there really aren't any bad teams in the league. Like last year in Big 12 conference play, the average point spread for these games was 5.5 points. No other conference had an average point spread smaller than 8.5. That just gives you an idea of how compact this league is from top to bottom, where the top teams are not elite, but the bottom teams are not horrible. It is just a coin flip in a lot of these matchups every single week, which for a fan is absolutely phenomenal, because it is one of the few instances in college football where you go into a Saturday and literally anything can happen on any of these games. You don't know who's going to win. You don't know who will emerge as the playoff team. Case in point, Arizona State was coming off a 3-win season in 2023, and they won the Big 12 and got to the college football playoff in 2024. It could happen again. It could be the team that finished last in the league last year making a sudden climb. It's why the Big 12 is very exciting, and it's why I have them ahead of the ACC, because there truly are no bottom feeders, even if there aren't any elite teams either.
Big 10 has won the last 2 national championships, but you have them ranked 2nd behind the SEC. How do you compare the top teams in the Big 10 to the top teams in the SEC?
I mean, I think the results in the college football playoff the last few years can do all the speaking for me. When you get to the top of the Big Ten, they are on par with the top of the SEC. And that was not the case for a very long time when the SEC was dominating in the BCS era and in the early playoff era outside of Ohio State. But we have seen the SEC kind of slip back at the top while the Ohio States and Michigans of the world have improved their stock. And then you add in an Oregon program that is already a title contender and a serious threat year in and year out with the resources that they have, and the top of this league looks very, very strong. And then I haven't even mentioned Penn State, the team that is currently number 2 in the AP poll and is only a few points behind Texas for that number 1 spot. So when you look at the top of the Big Ten, it really is no different than the top of the SEC. It's just once you get past those first 4 teams, there is improvement in the second and third tier of the Big Ten. I think that now in the NIL and transfer portal era, the fact that the Big Ten has been able to bring in so much money from its television contracts is finally starting to help pay dividends on the field, because you're able to see the teams and programs kind of throw their money around a bit to really build their teams and build strength. So you are seeing that second and third tier improve. It's just they are not quite at the same level as the SEC yet.
And perhaps we'll see some shuffling in that first really, really big game, Texas and my Ohio State Buckeyes in week 1 at the home of the reigning national champions. The SEC sent a record 14 men's basketball teams to the NCAA tournament and had one of the schools win it all. Chomp, chomp. The SEC has a record 10 football teams in the AP top 25, Tom. How many SEC schools get into the 12-team playoff this year, and does one of those schools win the Natty?
Well, I'm sure there are plenty of people in SEC country who will tell you all 12 spots should go to SEC teams at the end of the year. I don't think that's how the rules work, though. But, I mean, listen, it's a very good league. And one of the things that is very interesting about the SEC this year is, just like everywhere else, there are so many question marks about the teams that you expect to be at the top of the conference that it kind of opens some cracks. Like Georgia has, you know, they won 2 national titles a few years ago, but the last couple seasons, they've been on kind of the wrong end of the transfer portal in that other teams have been able to raid their depth that they were able to hoard for years, and that's what Alabama was doing before them under Nick Saban, and it's kind of brought them back to the pack a little bit. But even when you look at Texas, a team that's starting at number 1, I will tell you right now, I think Texas is a little overrated. We're looking a little too easily past the fact that they have a new quarterback. They lost most of their production on offense. They have key offensive linemen to replace, key defensive linemen to replace, but they're still going to be very good because Steve Sarkisian has built such a solid foundation on the recruiting trail that at worst you're looking at a team that's going to be 9-3 and in playoff hunt. But you look at the top of that league, and the fact of the matter is, when you go down that board, you can see them all there in the top 10 as far as the national title odds. There are 4 SEC teams in the top 10 alone, and I'm telling you right now, all 4 of them have a chance to win it, and you still don't see a Texas A&M, a very talented team, an Ole Miss team that's going to be very talented. I think that the SEC is still, as far as having teams capable of winning national titles, is still at the top of the list as far as all the conferences in the country. And if they do win a national title this year, it should come as a surprise to nobody because it's kind of what they've been doing. So will they win the national title this year? Decent chance. But I'm not going to say for sure that they will, because they still have to get through Ohio State. They're going to have to get through Penn State, Oregon, and then maybe a Clemson in Miami too.
Do you have a preseason pick to win the national championship?
I'm going a bit off the radar here, although not too far off the radar because they are in that top 10 of the odds. I like LSU. There are so many question marks about the top teams, but LSU has a stud quarterback coming back who's one of the favorites to win the Heisman. They have tremendous skill position players. There are questions on the offensive line that will need to be addressed, and we'll find out early with the way that their schedule sets up against Clemson. And that defense, I think, will get much better in their second year under their new defensive coordinator. I think that LSU is a team that, when it reaches its peak, is a national title contender every single time. We've seen it before with different quarterbacks and different coaches. If it hits, look out for the Tigers.
So there you go. You answer my question. The SEC has a record 10 football teams in the top 25. Does one of those schools win the Natty? Tom Fornelli says yes. LSU. Book it. Thank you, Tom. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Prior to the back-to-back titles won by the Big Ten, the SEC had won 6 of the previous 8 national championships. And for all things college football, check out the Cover 3 podcast. We got the band playing in the background, the HQ band, love them. Host Chip Patterson, joined by Tom Fornelli, Danny Cannell, Bud Elliott with in-depth analysis. And every week during the season, you'll get picks against the spread. Loyal listeners will tell you it's one of the best podcasts on the market. The Cover 3 podcast. Download and follow today.